They say families forever. Mine forgot I existed as soon as the checks cleared. My name's Liam Morales, I'm 32, and last week I found out my younger sister Talia was getting married. Cool, right? Except I wasn't invited. And it's not like I found out from a family group chat or got a call with an awkward excuse. No, I found out the way people discover surprise parties they're not supposed to know about through an Instagram post. A photo of a golden-rimmed invitation draped across white linens, hashtagged with, "The countdown begins. Can't wait to celebrate with my closest people," except I wasn't on the list. At first I thought, okay, maybe the invite got lost in the mail. Maybe she was waiting to tell me in person. Maybe it was a surprise. But then I remembered I paid for it. I literally paid for her wedding. 6 months ago, she came to me in tears because the venue was too expensive. Her fiancé Bradley had just lost his job. My parents wouldn't co-sign anything. She was drowning in bills, and I, like a big dumb brother, stepped in. $5,000 for the venue deposit, $3,500 for catering, $800 for a dress I never even got to see. And now I was ghosted from my own investment. I sent her a message. "Hey, I saw your post, just checking in. Did my invite get lost or—" No answer. For 2 hours I stared at that stupid grey bubble waiting for those typing dots. Nothing. By 10:46 p.m. she finally replied. "Hey Liam, so I've been meaning to talk to you about this. The guest list is super curated. It's a really elegant, intimate thing, and well, I just didn't think it would be your scene. Hope you understand. Love you." I reread it 3 times. Didn't think it would be my scene. Let's be clear, I don't own a yacht or wear Armani, but I'm not some barefoot caveman either. I run a detailing shop for exotic cars. We're booked solid for 6 months. I employ a team of 10. We detail everything from Bentleys to Bugattis, but none of that mattered. Not to Talia, not to my parents, because I still wore work boots, because I didn't sip wine with pinkies out or post filtered coffee shots on my stories. She wanted to host a wedding straight out of a bridal magazine, and I didn't match the aesthetic. Her words, not mine. You want to know the wildest part? I didn't even get mad. Not at first. I convinced myself maybe I wasn't the right fit. Maybe she just didn't want someone like me clashing with her polished Pinterest board dreams. But then I remembered, every time she called me crying about the florist not replying, I handled it. When her wedding planner ghosted her, I found another one. When she wanted a custom cake from some place across the state, I paid the courier fee. I was the wedding's secret weapon. I just wasn't allowed in the final picture. I didn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned, wondering when exactly she decided I was just the wallet, not the brother. Was it last Thanksgiving when I showed up straight from work, still in uniform? Was it when she introduced me to her friends as Liam, he fixes cars or something? Or had she always looked at me like that? I needed answers. So the next morning I showed up at my parents' house, unannounced. I parked my Dodge outside their neatly trimmed lawn and walked in like I always did, boots, clunking shirt, still smelling faintly of tyre rubber. And just my luck, I walked in on a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. "He's sweet, but you know how he is," my mum said. "Always loud, always in those grease-stained clothes. I just don't want him making a scene at the reception." "Exactly," Talia agreed. "Bradley's boss is coming. It's not the kind of crowd Liam would know how to be around." There it was. Not we ran out of space, not he'll be travelling, just the truth. I didn't fit their fantasy. I stepped into the kitchen. Both of them froze. My mom dropped a spoon. Talia's face turned ghost white. "So I said you've all decided I'm more embarrassment than family." "Liam, it's not like that." "Cut the crap," I said, calm but clear. "I paid for your wedding. And I wasn't even good enough to make the guest list." Talia straightened up, flicking her hair like that would fix her tone. "Don't make this dramatic, it's just the vibe. You're more casual, you know." "Casual," I echoed. "Like, not welcome casual?" She folded her arms. "Why are you making this about you? It's my day." I stared at her for a long moment. Then I nodded slowly. "You're right. It is your day, and you'll be paying for the rest of it." Her mouth dropped. "Wait, what?" "The cake balance. The second deposit on the venue." The photography package I was about to send funds for, I shrugged. Figure it out. You curated the guest list. You can curate the funding. My mom gasped. Talia's jaw tightened. You promised. And you promised family mattered, I shot back. Guess we both lied. Then I walked out. No yelling, no slamming doors. Just the sound of my boots echoing through a house that never really wanted me. By the time I got back to my shop, the missed calls were already stacking up. 3 from Talia, 1 from Mom, 2 from Dad, which was hilarious because the man hadn't called me voluntarily since I was 19. I let them ring. I needed silence to think. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't bitter. Not yet. I was stunned. I felt like I'd just been evicted from a house I helped build. Talia had always been complicated. Growing up, she was the golden girl, glittery overachieving, always performing for someone. Ballet recitals, school plays, social media filters. She learned early how to sparkle. And I was the older brother who dropped out of college to start fixing cars. I made good money. I had a tight crew, loyal customers. But none of that sparkled in family photos. To them, I was always the background blur. That night, while closing up the garage, I finally opened Talia's newest text. Liam, be reasonable. The final cake deposit is due this Friday. You said you'd cover it. I stared at the screen. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even pretending to be. Just assuming I'd still play my part behind the curtain like always. So I typed, I wouldn't want to ruin the vibe. You'll have to figure it out without me. No emojis, no fluff, just the truth. 2 minutes later, my phone rang again. Her name flashed across the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the guilt parade. Mum, sweetheart, you're blowing this out of proportion. Dad, this isn't how we raised you. Talia, you're punishing me over something petty. Seriously, you're better than this. Oh, that last one. That one hit different. You're better than this. Translation. How dare you stop letting me walk all over you? By morning, the group texts had started. My aunt, a couple cousins. Even Bradley's sister messaged me on Facebook like we'd ever been close. Hey, just wanted to say it's Talia's big day. She's under a lot of pressure. Hope you can work it out. Right, because pressure explains cutting out the person who bankrolled your wedding. Around noon, my dad showed up at my shop. First time in 4 years. He stood awkwardly near the front watching my team polish a bright red McLaren like it was a spaceship. You're doing well, he finally said. I nodded, yeah, we are. He cleared his throat. Your sister's panicking. The cake shop won't move forward without the rest of the deposit. And the florist called about a bounced payment. I stayed quiet. Liam, I get it. You're hurt, but this is your sister. I looked at him, really looked. The same man who once told me I'd wasted my potential opening a garage instead of becoming an engineer. She made her choice, I said simply. She didn't mean it, he replied. She meant it enough to leave me off the guest list, I snapped. So let her have the wedding she planned for the people she did invite. He tried again, pleading this time. You know, Talia, she doesn't think. She just wants everything to look perfect. I smiled. Then she should have thought harder before burning her budget and her bridges. He left with a quiet, defeated nod. That night I poured myself a drink and finally allowed the rage to settle in. Not because of the money, not even the insult. It was the pattern. Every year, every holiday, every so-called milestone I showed up, in the background, paying, fixing, helping, quietly. And every time I was met with the same wrinkled noses, backhanded compliments and condescending smiles. At least you're doing something with your hands. Must be nice to set your own hours. You don't understand, corporate life is stressful. Like my 70-hour weeks were a hobby. And still I paid, because I thought one day maybe they'd see me differently. But now I didn't want to be seen. I wanted them to feel what it's like when I disappear. 3 days before the wedding, things hit DEFCON 1. A mutual cousin, Aria, the only one in the family who'd ever treated me like an actual human being, called me in full panic mode. Liam, you need to hear this. Apparently the cake was never made. The bakery refused to start without the final payment. The florist had cancelled completely. She booked a last-minute event instead. And the venue, Talia's dream location with a vineyard view, on the verge of pulling out entirely. They need the final balance today, Aria said breathless, or they're opening the date to another party. I felt a twinge of something, not guilt, not exactly. More like amusement. All that curating, all those aesthetic boards, and now she was about to walk down the aisle next to a folding table and a Costco cake. That same night, Talia called again. This time I answered. "What the hell, Liam?" she yelled. "You said you'd cover these things. You can't just vanish." "You vanished first," I said coolly, "from your wedding guest list." "It's not the same thing." "It is," I said. "You made decisions, so did I." "You're being spiteful," she hissed. "No, I'm being done. There's a difference." She was quiet for a second. "I don't get it," she said. "I thought you didn't care about fancy events. You hate this kind of stuff." I almost laughed. "You're right. I do hate events full of people who pretend to care while whispering judgments behind polished smiles. But I still thought I mattered. Silly me." Her voice softened. "Liam, you do matter." "Not enough to be invited," I shot back, "but just enough to pay." She started crying. Like real shaky breath sobs. "I didn't know it would fall apart like this." "Actions have consequences," I said, calm as ever. "Maybe you should have included the guy footing the bill." She tried begging, bribing, even blaming me for sabotaging her. I ended the call with one line. "You wanted a wedding without me. Now you've got it. Good luck." Click. Next day, Aria texted. "They're scrambling. I've never seen your mum so red-faced. Your dad called a loan officer. Talia's begging people to Venmo her." I just smiled and poured another cup of coffee. No one had ever begged me. Just assumed, expected, demanded. But not this time. This time I wasn't their safety net. I was the proof that when you pull too hard on a rope, it snaps. Wedding day. I woke up around 9 a.m. to blue skies, hot coffee, and absolutely no obligations. It was the first time in forever that I didn't feel tethered to someone else's chaos. No emergencies, no urgent calls, no last-minute transfers. Just me, in my space, in my peace. At exactly 11:27 a.m. my phone buzzed. Mom? Ignored. At 11:42 it buzzed again. Dad? Nope. By 12:03 I had a text from Aria. "BRO, you're not going to believe this. The venue locked the gates. No one can get in." I nearly choked on my coffee. I stared at the screen, reread it twice, then leaned back and let out the most cathartic laugh I've ever had in my life. I hadn't wished for it, but oh, Karma knew how to throw a party. Turns out when the final payment deadline passed, the vineyard cancelled the reservation, and they weren't playing. Guests had started arriving dressed in designer gowns and pocket-square suits, only to be greeted by a padlocked gate and a confused groundskeeper shrugging at the chaos. No one knew what was going on. The planner hadn't shown up, the florist had backed out, the cake still, sitting at the bakery, untouched and unpaid for. And Talia, absolutely losing it. Apparently she showed up expecting champagne and string quartets, and instead walked into her curated nightmare. People were filming, whispering, guests were calling Ubers to leave before the drama swallowed them whole. At 1:15 p.m. my phone rang again. "Talia." This time I picked up. "Are you happy now?" she screamed, her voice cracking with rage and humiliation. I sipped my coffee and answered flatly, "What exactly do you think I did?" You knew the payments were due. You were supposed to help." "No," I said. "You hoped I'd help. You assumed I would. That's on you. You let me walk into this disaster," she sobbed. "You let everything fall apart." "Correction," I said, calm as ever. "You built this on sand. I just stopped being the scaffolding." Silence. Then a shaky whisper, "I don't understand why you're doing this." That part made me pause. She truly didn't see it. "Because I said you used me. You took my money, my time, my support, and then tossed me aside like a dirty wrench when it didn't suit your vibe." "That's not what I meant." "You didn't have to say it," I interrupted. "You left me off the list. You made your priorities crystal clear. You wanted an Instagram-perfect wedding, and I didn't match the colour scheme. Got it. But you don't get to crop me out of the picture and still demand I pay for the frame." She was quiet for a long time. Then she broke. Like really broke. "I just wanted it to be perfect," she whispered. "I wanted people to see I had it all together." There it was. The truth raw and insecure. Not malice, just deep, fragile vanity. "And how's that going for you?" I asked gently. She didn't answer. Eventually she hung up. I heard the rest from Aria. The guests ended up being redirected to Uncle Rob's backyard, a last-minute scramble with plastic folding chairs, paper tablecloths, and some sad supermarket cupcakes. Talia cried through most of the ceremony. Half the guests didn't show, the other half left early. And Bradley, apparently, he was furious, not because of the drama, but because his boss had shown up and left within 10 minutes. So much for networking. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then I remembered how I sat alone at her engagement party, introduced as my brother Liam. He works on cars, I think. I remembered the eye rolls, the inside jokes I was never a part of, and the way my mum would whisper, "Don't bring up work, honey. It's not really brunch appropriate." Yeah, she got what she ordered, just not in the packaging she expected. The following week was weird. Radio silence from the family. No calls, no texts, not even a passive-aggressive Bible verse forwarded by Mom. Just quiet. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was drowning in it. I felt free. Until Thursday, when Mom finally broke the silence. She walked into my shop like it wasn't ground zero for the family war. In a full blouse and heels, looking completely out of place among oil-stained rags and engine hums. "Can we talk?" she asked. I nodded toward the break room. She sat down, adjusted her pearls, and folded her hands like she was prepping for a board meeting. "Your sister's devastated," she started. "So I've heard. This whole situation, it's been hard on all of us." I said nothing. "Liam, I know Talia hurt you. I'm not excusing it, but family doesn't walk away." I leaned back in my chair, arms folded. "I didn't walk away, I was pushed." She sighed. Maybe she went too far with the guest list, but she was stressed. And trying to create something special. "She created a mess," I said, "and counted on me to clean it up like I always do." "Well, you've made your point," she said sharply, loud and clear. There it was. The tone, the one that always came out when I stopped being useful. "Did I asked, because I'm not sure you actually get it yet." "Get what?" "That I'm not the fallback plan anymore." She blinked, visibly stunned. "I'm not the guy who fixes everything from behind the scenes while being treated like an embarrassment. I'm not the ATM that doesn't need an invite to be expected. I'm your son, Talia's brother, not a prop." The silence that followed, beautiful. Eventually she stood up, smoothing her skirt like she hadn't just been handed a truth bomb. "I hope one day you'll come back to the family." I smiled, not bitter, just at peace. "If you mean the people who actually treat me like family, I never left." Later that day I got a message from Talia. "I don't know if we'll ever be okay, but I do know I took you for granted. I'm sorry. No demands, no but, just that. And you know what? That was enough." I didn't reply right away. Not because I was angry, but because for once I didn't owe her anything. A week passed, then another. No one called, no texts, no cryptic Facebook posts, no drama-filled group chats. For once, my phone wasn't a landmine of guilt and obligation. And I liked it. Business at the shop was booming. We'd just picked up a contract detailing a fleet of classic Ferraris for a collector who liked my no BS attitude. I took my crew out for steak that Friday. I tipped our server $100. Not to flex, just because I could. No one was bleeding me dry for their Pinterest dream anymore, and it felt light. That Sunday I got an unexpected knock on my door. Talia, standing on my porch, no makeup hoodie over a messy bun and puffy eyes that looked like she'd been crying all week. I didn't say anything, just leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Hey," she said, voice barely a whisper. "Hey, can we talk?" I stepped aside. We sat in silence on the couch for a full minute. Then she blurted it out. "I screwed up." I didn't say anything. I was so focused on creating this perfect image that I didn't care who I stepped on to get it. "And you," she swallowed, "you've always been there. Always. Even when you shouldn't have been." That part stung, because it was true. "You paid for things without asking questions," she continued. "You helped when no one else would, and I thanked you by making you invisible." I nodded slowly. "That's about the size of it." "I thought I was better than you," she admitted, eyes brimming. "Because I had a degree, a corporate job, a fiancé who wore loafers instead of work boots." But none of that mattered when everything went sideways. "You thought I didn't belong," I said flatly. "Yeah," she whispered. "I did. But that was before I stood in front of a locked gate on my wedding day, watching everything crumble. And what changed?" She looked up at me, dead serious. "I finally realised what value actually looks like, and it doesn't wear a tailored suit." For a moment I saw my sister, the real one, not the curated camera-ready version, just Talia, flawed, insecure, trying like hell to fix something she broke. "You hurt me," I said, voice even, "not because you forgot me, but because you used me while forgetting me." "I know," she said, "and I'm not asking for money or favours. I just wanted to say sorry. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start." Over the next few weeks, things shifted. Talia stopped calling just to ask for things. Instead, she started sending small texts. "Hope your week's going okay. Saw a classic Mustang yesterday and thought of you." Nothing dramatic, no grand gestures, just quiet attempts to rebuild a bridge she'd burned. And surprisingly, it worked. I didn't respond right away. Sometimes I left her on red. Other times I sent back a thumbs up or a meme. But it was happening, slow, real, honest healing, until the guilt bombs returned. Not from her. From Mom. "You've made your point, Liam. Can't you let it go? She's your sister. Forgive her already. Don't punish the whole family for one mistake." That last one, it pissed me off. So I called her. "Mom, I'm not punishing anyone," I said calmly. "I just finally stopped playing the role you all handed me. You're exaggerating." "Am I?" I asked. "Tell me, when was the last time any of you asked how I was doing without it being followed by a request for money?" Silence. "When have you ever bragged about my business to your friends the way you do about Talia's LinkedIn promotions?" More silence. "Do you even know how many employees I have now?" 3. I laughed. "Try 12. "Well, that's lovely, dear." Lovely. Like I'd just told her I took up knitting. "This isn't about resentment," I said. "It's about respect. And I've been running on empty for years." "We didn't mean to make you feel that way," she offered weakly. "No," I said, "you didn't mean to, but you did, over and over again. So what now, you just stay away forever?" "No," I replied, "but I set my boundaries, and you'll respect them or you won't hear from me at all." That was the first time I heard my mom actually listen. No deflecting, no spin, just the sound of someone who realised the ATM was also a human being. 2 months later, things stabilised. Talia started volunteering at a local non-profit on weekends, no Instagram, no filters, no hashtags. She didn't announce it. Aria told me. Apparently she was helping underprivileged teens prep for job interviews. One of them asked if she knew anything about cars. She told them no, but my brother does, and gave them my card. That meant something. I called her a week later. "Heard you're handing out my business cards." "Guilty?" She laughed. "You okay with that?" "Yeah," I said. "Thanks." A pause. "You want to grab coffee sometime?" "Sure," I said, "but I'm not wearing a suit." "Good," she replied. "I've had enough suits to last me a lifetime." The more I talked to her, the more I realised she was changing. Not overnight, not in fairy tale time, but slowly, intentionally. We didn't talk about the wedding. We didn't need to. She knew. And I wasn't interested in making her squirm. The past didn't need to be picked at like a scab. It needed to scar and stay that way as a reminder. What surprised me most, I didn't feel angry anymore. Not at her, not at my parents, not even at myself. For years I thought keeping the peace meant staying silent, giving endlessly, showing up even when no one clapped. But peace, real peace. It came from finally saying no. From standing still when everyone else tried to pull you back into the same old script. By spring everything felt quieter. I mean that in the best way. No more guilt-fueled calls, no random last-minute favours disguised as emergencies, no weekend brunches where I felt like a mechanic intruding on a stockbroker summit. Just peace, work, real conversations. Talia and I met up a few times for coffee. Nothing intense. She didn't cry. I didn't lecture. We talked about random stuff, car prices, wedding regrets, TV shows we both thought jumped the shark. For once she wasn't performing, and I wasn't tolerating. It was human, real. She even came by the shop once, unannounced. She brought pastries and asked if she could hang out in the office for a bit while Bradley was at a client dinner. "Weird question," she said mid-bite. "Do you like what you do? Like, really like it?" "You asking if I love cars?" I smirked. "No," she replied. "I mean being here, the noise, the oil, the grind." I leaned back in my chair. "Yeah, I do. I like creating something with my hands, solving problems, watching a beat-up engine come back to life. It's honest work. People don't fake a blown head gasket." She nodded. "That's what I envy, no fakeness." That was the first time I realised she wasn't just changing, she was trying to unlearn everything that made her prioritise surface over soul. Of course, not everyone was on the same journey. Mom, for example, couldn't let go of her image management. She started hosting family dinners again, but with less warmth and more pageantry. She'd invite Talia Bradley, even some second cousins, but leave me off the list. When I didn't show, she'd send me a picture of the table. No caption, just the table. As if to say, look what you're missing. I'd respond with a picture of my dinner at a taco truck, with my guys from the shop captioned, better vibe. Petty maybe, satisfying absolutely. Eventually I stopped replying altogether, because when people only invite you to be seen, not to be valued, you stop accepting the invitation. It all came to a head when my cousin Gabriel graduated from law school. There was a big family party. I was invited, surprisingly. So was everyone else with a bloodline and a browser. Talia texted me the day before. Hey, just a heads up, Mom might try to start something. She's been on edge. About what I replied. She doesn't like not being in control. That sounded about right. So I wore jeans and a clean flannel. No suit, no tie. Just me. My car keys clipped to my belt-calloused hands visible. When I walked in, heads turned. Not in disgust, more in surprise. Talia grinned and hugged me like we were cool. Because we were. Mom, however, she gave me a look like I'd just tracked mud into a museum. You couldn't wear something nicer, she whispered. I could have, I said, but I didn't. She clenched her jaw and walked off. I didn't follow. I chatted with cousins. I congratulated Gabriel. I even helped set up the folding chairs when the rental crew bailed last minute. People noticed that the casual guy was doing more than posing for photos. Near the end of the night, as the crowd thinned out, I caught part of a conversation between Mom and one of the neighbours. She didn't know I was nearby. Oh yes, Talia's doing so well. Bradley's on track for partner. And Liam, she paused. Well, he's always been a bit rough around the edges. Works with cars, still single, but we support him. Support me? I almost laughed out loud. Not we're proud of him. Not he built something from scratch. Just a performative pat on the head like I was the family project that never reached potential. I stepped out of the shadows. Funny, I said, I didn't realise you were my PR agent. She jumped. Liam, I didn't see you there. Clearly. The neighbour gave an awkward wave and dipped faster than a TikTok trend. Mum tried to recover. I didn't mean anything by it. I was just selling the image, I finished, like always. That's not fair. No, what's not fair, I said, is acting like my life is a footnote to everyone else's success story. I was just making conversation. Then make a different one. I didn't yell, didn't cause a scene, just walked out. And this time no one followed. A few days later, Talia called. I heard what happened, she said. Yeah, same old. I told Mom she needs to stop. She doesn't see it, but you've changed. No, I corrected gently. I've always been like this. She just never looked past the oil stains. Silence. Then, I'm glad you stopped letting her define your worth. That meant more than I expected. The weirdest part, the more I pulled back, the more the rest of the family started noticing. Uncle Rob came by the shop to get his vintage Mustang tuned. Gabriel brought me lunch and said he respected how I handled myself at the party. Even a cousin who once joked I was the grease monkey asked me for business advice. Turns out when you stop begging for a seat at the table, people start wondering why you ever needed one. By summer my business doubled. I opened a second location across town, brought in 2 new technicians, started mentoring at-risk teens who were interested in trades. None of this was posted on my mum's fridge, but that was okay. Because I finally stopped needing that kind of validation, Talia came to my shop opening, brought cookies and a plaque that read "Built Not Bought." We hugged. We didn't talk about the past. It had already taught us everything we needed to know. It's wild how peace can sneak up on you. One day you're untangling years of emotional baggage. The next you're sipping coffee in your office, watching your employees joke while changing the transmission on a Porsche and realising you're exactly where you need to be. I wasn't chasing acceptance anymore. Not from my mother. Not from my extended family. Not even from Talia. I had created something solid with my hands, my instincts, and, my grease-stained work boots. And for once, no one could take credit for it, or twist it into something small enough to fit their image. Which is probably why I didn't feel much of anything when the invitation came. A cream envelope with gold lettering, embossed, classy, overkill. Morales family reunion, celebrating 40 years of legacy. Apparently Mum had planned a huge backyard party, Catered, tents, photos from every decade, slideshows, the whole legacy vibe. What caught my eye wasn't the invitation itself, it was the guest list. Every name listed, including mine. Right under Bradley and Talia Rivera, but this time there was no assumption attached, no hidden roles, no can you pick up the cake or could you cover the speaker rental? Just a card, sent on time, addressed with care. Still, I didn't RSVP. Not right away. A week passed, then another. Talia texted me. You coming? Still thinking about it. You know it won't be the same without you. I stared at the message for a while. Then I showed up. Not for them, for me. To show the version of myself I used to hide, the one who didn't shrink around relatives with corporate titles, who no longer needed to prove his worth in buttoned-up language or Instagram-perfect optics. I wore black jeans, a fitted work shirt with my shop's embroidered logo, and a clean pair of boots. No tie, no apology. I parked my truck between two BMWs and walked through the open gate like I belonged there. Because I did. The backyard was decked out like a Pinterest board, exploded twinkle lights, catered buffet printed name cards at the tables. I ignored the assigned seating and grabbed a chair in the back near the food. A few heads turned. A few people smiled awkwardly. I nodded and kept eating. Then I heard the mic tap. Mom! She stepped up to the makeshift podium, hair perfectly sprayed pearls in place notes in hand. Thank you all for being here to celebrate the Morales legacy, she began, eyes sweeping the crowd. 40 years ago, your grandfather started this family with nothing but determination and a small grocery shop. And look at us now, doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, engineers. She beamed. Today we honour that spirit of hard work and class, that Morales excellence. Class. There it was again. Code for Polish, for packaging, for the kind of success you could wrap in ribbon and brag about on Facebook. In fact, she continued, I'd like to recognise a few shining examples. She started listing names. Gabriel with his new law firm partnership. Aria, who just published a book. Bradley, who surprise made junior partner. Each one stood, got polite applause, smiled. I stayed seated, chewing on a meatball skewer. Then came the twist. And I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge someone whose journey has been a little different, she said, glancing at me. Oh boy. My son Liam. Now every head turned. He owns 2 successful auto shops. He mentors local youth. He built his career from the ground up without a degree, without shortcuts, just grit and vision. She paused. And maybe for too long I didn't see that for what it was. But today I do. And I'm proud. I blinked. No sarcasm, no backhanded tone, no despite his choices. Just that. I didn't stand, didn't bow, didn't wave. I just raised my glass, nodded once and took a sip. Let them clap if they wanted, let them process the rewrite. I wasn't there for their approval. I was there to exist on my own terms. After the speech, people started coming over. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Old uncles who used to chuckle when I said I worked with my hands. So you really have 12 employees now. Heard you detailed a Bugatti last month at True. Think you could take a look at my 92 Camry sometime? It was hilarious. But it wasn't resentment I felt. It was clarity. They weren't suddenly seeing me as more because I changed. They were finally catching up to the fact that I never needed changing. Later, Talia found me sitting on the porch swing at the edge of the yard, nursing a bottle of cider. Hey, she said. Hey. She sat beside me. You handled that well. Didn't expect it. Neither did I, she chuckled, but she meant it. I'm still keeping my distance, I said. Good, she nodded. You should. You know, for a long time I said I thought if I just did enough, paid enough, became enough, they'd finally see me. And now I don't need them to. She smiled. Proud of you, you know. Took you long enough. Better late than curated. We both laughed. No pain in it. No lingering bitterness. Just the kind of laugh that comes from having survived something and choosing not to carry it any further. That night I drove home with the windows down. No music, just air. The sound of my truck humming along the road. I paved myself. They'd tried to crop me out, turned me into a supporting character in their glossy photo album, but I rebuilt the narrative. And this time, I owned the lens. Final note. I haven't talked to my mum much since. We're polite, cordial, surface level. That's okay. Some things don't need to be repaired, they just need to be respected. from a distance. Talia and I, we're good. We still have coffee sometimes. She sends me updates about the non-profit kids. I send her engine pics she pretends to understand. Bradley and I never clicked. We probably won't. He's fine, but that's not my crowd. Doesn't have to be. As for me, I'm still working, still building, still growing, but I don't do it to prove anything anymore. Not to them. Not to anyone. Just me. And that's more than enough. Story 2, I thought I was doing something kind, generous even. Turns out I was just setting myself up to get embarrassed again. Hi, I'm Marcus. I'm 34, work in engineering project management, and I make a comfortable living. I've always been the stable one in the family. My younger brother Dylan, now 29, is what my parents call a free spirit. What that really means is he's never held a job longer than 6 months and still thinks rent is a suggestion. Despite that, I've always had his back. Covered his car insurance, co-signed a lease, once never again even paid off a few of his emergency credit cards over the years. Because that's what family does, right? Apparently not. Let me take you back a few weeks. Dylan was getting married to his longtime girlfriend, Tara. Lovely girl, smart, grounded, honestly way too good for him. I wanted to give them something special. A gesture to say I believe in your future, even if you don't always act like you do. So I bought them a car, a brand new luxury sedan, sleek silver leather interior, full tech package, safe, classy, reliable. It wasn't a sports car, but it screamed grown up and responsible, which frankly is what Dylan needed. The wedding was beautiful outdoor ceremony, lots of happy tears, buffet with way too many options. After the first dance and the usual speeches, I handed Dylan the keys in a small velvet box. He opened it in front of everyone. His expression, not joy, not shock. It was disappointment. He held up the key, looked at the car parked just outside and literally said, "Oh, not exactly what I pictured, but thanks, I guess." I froze. Did I hear that right? I laughed awkwardly, thinking maybe he was nervous, but then he added, "I was kind of hoping for something more exciting. You know, like a convertible, something with a little roar." Roar. Bro, you're married now. You need trunk space, not turbo. Our parents were standing nearby. I glanced at them, expecting at least some mild scolding. My mum shrugged and muttered, "Well, he's always dreamed of a sportier ride, but hey, at least you tried right." At least I tried, like I'd handed him a used blender. That was the moment something broke inside me. I've spent years being the fallback guy, the dependable one, the one who gets called when things fall apart. I was done being a walking ATM for someone who couldn't say thank you without a disclaimer. But I didn't say anything that night. I smiled, clinked a glass, and played along. The next morning, though, I made a phone call that changed everything. Let's rewind for a second. This wasn't the first time Dylan had hinted no begged for a flashy car. A few weeks before the wedding, we were grabbing lunch when he said dead serious, "If you really want to give me a wedding gift, I'll never forget think Porsche. Or maybe a Mustang, midnight blue." I'd laughed. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He brought it up again 2 days later. This time it was a Tesla Model S. "Come on, Marcus. You're always saying how well you're doing, and you don't even have kids or a mortgage. What's a little splurge?" A little splurge. I make good money, but I'm not an NBA draft pick. I told him gently that I was planning a gift he'd actually use something safe with low maintenance. A car that wouldn't bankrupt him the first time it needed service. He scoffed. "Boring, you think too much like a dad." Yeah, probably because one of us has to. So here's what I did. At 7 a.m. the day after the wedding, I arranged for the luxury sedan to be picked up. Yes, the same car he mocked. Then I had it replaced with something else, something he'd never forget. Picture this. A 2001 Geo Metro, dented, rusty, two-tone paint job. Accidentally, one door was replaced and never repainted. Manual windows, no AC, and a cassette deck. But the pièce de résistance, I had the hood painted bright yellow with "Just Married" in giant cursive script. And I added a custom license plate that read, Lillebrun. By 9 a.m. it was parked exactly where the luxury car had been, wrapped in a giant red bow. I even left a little card on the windshield. Since the first one didn't roar enough, here's one that squeals. Petty maybe, deserved absolutely. When Dylan came out that morning, still in his tux from the night before, hair wild and half asleep, he saw the metro and froze. He blinked, walked up slowly, then shouted, "Where the hell is the real car?" I walked out, sipping my coffee. "Oh, that you didn't want it, remember, not exciting enough. I figured this one has plenty of character." He looked like he was going to cry, or scream, or both. My parents showed up 10 minutes later. My mum gasped. "Marcus, you can't be serious." "Serious," I said. I tried to remember, but apparently effort isn't enough for Dylan, so I downgraded. Budget's tight. That was the moment Dad pulled me aside. "Okay, joke's over. Where's the real car?" "It's being returned. Paperwork wasn't finalised yet." He stared at me stunned. "You really cancelled it?" "Sure did." I took a sip of coffee and walked back inside. You'd think that would be the end of it, that Dylan would learn something, that maybe he'd reflect on how lucky he was that someone even tried. But you'd be wrong. The text started rolling in later that day. "You embarrassed me in front of Tara's family. This is your fault. You better fix this." Each one was more unhinged than the last, and for the first time in my life, I didn't respond. Because this wasn't just about a car. It was about decades of being the responsible one, the backup plan, the fixer, and getting zero gratitude in return. Well, not anymore. I was done being the dependable big brother. This time I let the Geo Metro do the talking. I wish I could tell you Dylan took the prank with a grain of salt, that he laughed it off, learned a little humility, maybe even apologised. Nope, he spiralled. That morning, after he saw the rust bucket I left in the driveway, he stood in the middle of the street barefoot in a crumpled tuxedo shirt, shouting like a madman. "You seriously gave me this piece of crap after all I've done for you?" That line actually made me laugh out loud. "All you've done for me?" I asked from the porch. "You mean like the time you drained my savings helping you get out of credit card debt, or the 4 years you borrowed my second car and never paid a dime for insurance or gas?" He ignored that. Instead, he stormed back inside while the neighbourhood crowd dispersed, some snickering others pretending not to care while clearly recording on their phones. Within an hour, the video had already been posted online. My co-worker texted me a clip of it with the caption, "Wait, is this your family? Because this is wild." Yeah, that was my family. Meanwhile, I went back to my place, poured myself a coffee, and let my phone buzz itself into oblivion. 25 missed calls, 13 voicemails, dozens of texts from my mom and Dylan ranging from, "How could you do this?" to "This is unforgivable." I didn't answer a single one. Because here's the thing, I wasn't sorry. Not even a little bit. That gift car was the first time Dylan ever had to publicly face the consequences of acting like a spoiled brat. And for once, everyone saw it happen in real time. The family meeting came that evening. I got a text from my mom. "Family dinner, 6 p.m. Please come, we need to talk." I almost skipped it, but curiosity got the better of me. When I walked into their house, the tension was already thick enough to slice. Dylan sat on the couch, arms crossed, like a 5-year-old. My mum stood near the dining table, visibly distressed, and Dad sat in his recliner, rubbing his forehead like he'd rather be anywhere else. No one said hello. I sat across from them. Mum started, voice soft but pointed. "Marcus, that was cruel. Publicly humiliating your brother like that." I stared at her for a beat, then leaned back in my chair. "So we're just skipping over the part where he insulted the actual luxury car I gave him." Dad cleared his throat. "We understand he was ungrateful, but you could have handled it differently." "Yeah," I said. "I could have kept being the family ATM and let him walk all over me again." That shut them up for about 5 seconds. Then Dylan jumped in. "You know what your problem is? You think because you make money you get to judge everyone else's life. You love playing the hero." "I was never playing anything," I said, my voice colder now. "I was the hero. You just took advantage of it so long you stopped noticing." My mom stepped forward. "Marcus, please, we're a family. We stick together." That line made me physically cringe. "No, Mom, I stuck us together. I've been the glue. You and Dad just let Dylan keep flaking and then called it love." She opened her mouth to protest, but I kept going. "You know what really made me do this? It wasn't even Dylan scoffing at a $40,000 gift. It was you saying, at least he tried. Like I was the one who disappointed you." Her face flushed. She looked like she wanted to cry. "I didn't mean it like that." "You did," I said, "and you've said stuff like that my whole life." Dylan scoffed. Wow, you're really going to cry about how hard it's been being the favourite. I actually laughed. Favourite, are you delusional? You've been coddled since you were old enough to say, Mom. I had to fight for every bit of respect in this family. You just had to breathe. The room fell silent. Then Dad spoke quietly. What do you want from us, Marcus, an apology? I thought about that for a second. No, I want acknowledgement. I want you to stop pretending like Dylan's behaviour is normal. I want you to admit you've let me carry this family financially and emotionally for years. Silence. Then my mom said the quiet part out loud. You make more money. It just made sense. There it was. I stood up. Cool. Then it makes sense for me to stop. Effective immediately. Dylan sat up straight. Wait, what does that mean? It means I'm done funding your mistakes, I said, grabbing my coat. No more loans, no more cars, no more second chances. Mom tried again. But what if Dylan needs help? I shrugged. Then he figures it out, like I did. And with that, I walked out. I wish I could say that was the last of it. But Dylan didn't take no well. Over the next few days, he tried texting me every trick in the book. Guilt. I'm your brother. You're seriously cutting me off. Blame. You ruined my reputation. Everyone's laughing at me. Manipulation. Tara's upset. She says you embarrassed her too. If we divorce, it's on you. That last one was almost impressive. I blocked him. A week later, I got a call from my aunt, my mum's sister, who I hadn't spoken to in years. Marcus, I know there's tension, but Dylan's struggling. Your parents are really worried. I almost laughed. Let me guess, they want me to fix it. She paused, then said, They said you've changed. I smiled. I have. And I hung up. But here's what none of them realised. This wasn't about a car, or a prank, or even the public embarrassment. This was about decades of emotional debt they never acknowledged. The rust bucket wasn't a prank. It was a mirror. And they finally saw themselves in it. I thought that was it. The wedding meltdown, the family dinner disaster, the blocked calls, all of it felt like the final chapter in a story that should have ended years ago. But I should have known better. Dylan wasn't just embarrassed, he was humiliated. And humiliation for a guy like him isn't something you learn from, it's something you try to erase. That's when things got interesting. About a week after I cut everyone off, I got a random text from a number I didn't recognise. Hey Marcus, this is Kyle Dylan's friend. Could you give me a call when you have a sec? I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. I called. Kyle sounded weirdly hesitant. Hey man, I know things have been rough between you and Dylan, but did you really take the car back? I laughed. Yeah, the one he didn't want. Kyle cleared his throat. So he's been trying to rebrand the whole thing? Rebrand? Yeah, he's telling people the Metro was a gag gift, that it was all part of the wedding fun, like your idea of a joke. I nearly choked on my coffee. A joke that man was ready to cry when he saw it. I know, Kyle said quickly, but he's been posting pics of it like it's some inside thing. Says you're just that kind of brother, always pulling stunts. He's acting like he was in on it. I couldn't even be mad, it was sad. Instead of learning something, Dylan was trying to spin it, pretend he wasn't blindsided, pretend he was in control. I let Kyle vent for a bit. Apparently even some of Dylan's groomsmen were getting tired of the act. One of them had asked Dylan straight up why the real car hadn't reappeared. His response, Marcus is just dramatic, he'll bring it back eventually, he always does. That line stuck with me. He always does. That was the whole problem. In Dylan's mind, I was a vending machine with a delay button. He could insult me, mock my gift, make a scene, but eventually I'd show up with something shiny to smooth things over. Not this time. A few days later, I got a call from my mom. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. Marcus, we've given you space, but your brother is really struggling. His job fell through and his car won't start. I know he made mistakes, but family is family. Right, the usual chorus. Then came the kicker. You have the power to fix this. Please do the right thing. I stared at my phone for a while. The right thing. What even was the right thing? According to my family, it was endless enabling. Never saying no. Carrying a man who refused to grow up, then getting blamed when he tripped. But I already had done the right thing by walking away. That's when I made a decision. If Dylan wanted to pretend the Metro was a joke, fine. If he wanted to play victim, fine. But I wasn't going to stay silent. Not anymore. I sat down and wrote a long, thoughtful message, not just for Dylan, but for everyone. I posted it on my personal Facebook page where most of my family and mutual friends could see it. I didn't name call, I didn't rant. I just laid it out. I gave my brother a brand new car as a wedding gift. He mocked it, laughed at it, made it clear that my generosity wasn't enough. So I returned the gift, replaced it with something symbolic, and walked away. Not to hurt him, but to finally break a pattern I've been stuck in for over a decade. I've spent years giving money, time, energy, while being met with entitlement, not gratitude. I'm done being guilt-tripped into silence. I wish him well, but I won't keep supporting someone who refuses to support himself. That was it. No drama, just truth. And it hit hard. Within hours, I was flooded with comments and DMs, old friends, extended family, even a couple of Dylan's buddies. I always wondered how you put up with him. This explains so much. Good on you for finally standing up for yourself. But my favourite came from our cousin Laura, who had been at the wedding. I was there when he said not exactly what I had in mind. We all heard it. You don't owe him a thing. Validation is a strange thing. You tell yourself you don't need it, but when it shows up, it still hits different. Dylan, of course, saw the post. How do I know? Because he showed up at my house. It was a Saturday. I was organising my garage when I saw his car, yes, the Metro, pull up in my driveway. The thing wheezed louder than it drove. He got out looking furious. Really, Marcus Facebook, are you 12? I stayed calm. You've been lying about what happened. I corrected the record. He threw his hands up. You're obsessed with making me look bad. You make yourself look bad. I just stopped cleaning up after you. He took a step closer. You embarrassed me. You ruined my wedding gift in front of everyone. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, so now you admit you didn't like the car. He went silent. Which is it, Dylan? Was it a gag, or are you still mad? You didn't get a Ferrari. He clenched his jaw. Tara's been asking questions. She's embarrassed. Maybe she should be, I said, for marrying a grown man who thinks weddings come with 6-figure gifts. He pointed at the Metro. You know I can't keep driving that thing. Then buy something else. I don't have the money. Then get a job. It was that simple, but for Dylan it might as well have been rocket science. You're unbelievable, he muttered. No, I said, I'm just finally consistent. He looked at me like he didn't recognise me anymore. And maybe he didn't. Maybe for the first time in his life he was meeting the version of me who didn't owe him anything. He turned to leave, then stopped and looked back. So that's it, we're just done? I shrugged. That's up to you. But this version of me doesn't finance other people's irresponsibility. He didn't say another word. He climbed into the Metro, slammed the door and peeled out of the driveway, well tried to. The engine sputtered halfway down the street. I didn't wave. I haven't heard from Dylan since. Mum tried one more guilt message. You've changed. This isn't the Marcus who used to help without asking. She was right. That Marcus is gone. This one has boundaries. And for the first time in my life, I don't feel like the bad guy for it. A month passed. No calls, no surprise visits, no guilt-laced texts, just silence. It was beautiful. I wasn't sure what I expected after that last showdown with Dylan. Maybe another tantrum, a dramatic apology. Some stunt involving my parents showing up to stage an intervention. But for once, everyone stayed quiet. I kept living my life. Work was steady. I started cooking at home, more sleeping better, even booked a short solo trip upstate. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't carrying anyone's chaos on my back. That's when I realised peace is louder than noise. Because when you've spent your entire life bracing for guilt judgment or someone else's screw-up silence feels like a luxury. And then just when things started feeling normal again, I got a letter. Yes, a literal letter. No return address, but I recognised the handwriting instantly, my mother's. That neat, almost too careful script she used for holiday cards and post-it notes stuck to casserole dishes. I opened it. It was exactly 1 page, folded into thirds. Smelled faintly like her lavender laundry detergent. Marcus, I've had some time to think. I still don't agree with everything you've done, and I wish things had played out differently. But I understand now that we didn't treat you fairly. You were always the strong one, so we leaned on you too hard. Dylan is lost. We still believe he'll find his way, but we also know we didn't prepare him for life the way we should have. I don't expect you to forgive us, but I hope you're doing okay. Love, Mom. I sat with that letter for a long time. Not because it fixed anything, but because for once it didn't ask me for anything. No strings, no guilt, just words. Was it an apology, kind of? It wasn't perfect, but it was more than I thought I'd ever get. I didn't respond, I wasn't ready. But I didn't throw it away either. I tucked it into a drawer next to some old birthday cards and a photo of me and Dylan as kids, back when things were simpler, back when we still believed family automatically meant good. A few weeks later, I bumped into someone who used to be one of Dylan's closest friends, James. We hadn't spoken in years, but he saw me at a coffee shop and came over. "Hey man, mind if I ask something kind of personal?" I nodded, "Sure." "Did you really buy him a luxury car for his wedding? Like, really?" I nodded again. "Yeah, and I took it back." He whistled low. "Man, he made it sound like you pranked him out of nowhere. Said you just showed up with that clown car to mess with him." I smiled. That sounds like Dylan. James paused, leaned in a little. "Truth is, he's not doing great. He's been bouncing between couch surfing and trying to start this podcast thing. Keeps saying he's on the verge of something big." That didn't surprise me. "He's always on the verge," I said. James gave me a sad smile. "He's got a million excuses. Blames his wife for not supporting his hustle. Blames you. Blames the economy. Blames everyone but himself." I shrugged. That's his full-time job, never taking accountability. James laughed. Then more seriously, "I know it probably doesn't matter now, but I thought you should hear it. Most of us saw what happened. We get it. You weren't the villain." That did matter. Not because I needed validation, but because for so long I was made to feel like protecting myself meant betraying my family. But now I see it clearly. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish, it makes you sane. Dylan texted me one last time. A single message weeks later. No hello, no context, just, "So I guess you don't care anymore." I stared at it for a minute, then typed, "I care, I just don't carry it for you anymore." I hit send, then blocked the number. That was the real ending. Not with yelling, not with a dramatic confrontation, just a full stop. A line drawn so clearly even Dylan couldn't pretend not to see it.